Hey, today we're going to be talking about how to give effective feedback. And this is a very informational video of how to do it, but it's also understanding what are the blocks, what are the barriers, and what did society teach us about giving feedback. We're going to dive into your beliefs around growth as well, and your attitude towards feedback, and then understand a little bit more of the how-to. How can you do it effectively so that you can show up as the leader that you truly are and communicate with your team in a way that helps inspire growth within them to create an amazing environment and culture within your business. And as you do that, then you will be able to notice the profound difference in their attitude, the way that they're showing up. And this makes for an environment that has a buzz, an environment where people are learning and growing and developing themselves. And the key to this is feedback. So let's talk about what feedback actually is. And there's a phenomenal, explanation that changed the way that I saw feedback. And if you break feedback down into two parts, the first part being feed and the second part being back, well, feed means to nourish, and back means reciprocation. So feedback is actually reciprocal nourishment. If you think about nature, everything is either green and growing or ripe and rotting. We have to grow as humans. If we stay stagnant, we fall into depression, and it's a slow downward spiral. So leaning into growth and therefore feedback allows us to continue growing, allows us to inspire people around us to grow, and it's so much more than that. It's an attitude that you have to continuously learn and stretch your mind, stretch your capabilities, and to step into your full potential. When we have a mission, and we know that that's our business mission, we're there all together to be able to achieve this mission. Nobody knows that mission better than you as a business owner. And you have all of these expectations of how you are going to achieve the mission. But nobody else knows that until you create that environment. And giving people feedback doesn't necessarily mean that they're doing it wrong. They're just not doing it in a way that is going to help the business achieve its mission. So it's taking that person out of it and recognizing from a big picture view that we've just got to get the mission done. We've got to create a movement that's going to propel us towards our outcomes. And that is all about having that communication and being able to help people see your version of that vision, your version of how to achieve the mission. The thing I like about feedback as well is that people subconsciously love that you are taking the time to help them grow. However, a lot of people have grown up in an environment of criticism, or they have low self-esteem, and their defense mechanisms are playing out really strong when somebody gives them feedback. So we need to have compassion for that. We need to understand that giving people feedback is a growth journey, and maybe they're not ready yet to hear that message. And as the leader, it might be very hard to say what needs to be said if there's that pushback, if there's that resistance. So we need to lean into the fear of hurting someone's feeling, lean into the fact that this person might just need a little bit of hand holding, and create that environment where it's okay for them to muck up, and it's okay for you to give them feedback. One of the stories that I really loved, my mentor told me, was when he was doing a presentation for our school, and he was in his real early days. He went into the office of the founder of our school, and he was so chuffed with himself that he'd just done this presentation, sort of, oh, look at me, look at me. And Sharon Pearson's her name, the founder, looked at him and said, that is 10% of your capacity. Now, how do you choose to interpret this? Is that something that is serving him, or is that something that's deflating him? Because if you see it as something that's deflating him, well, that's trying to please. But if you start to notice that it's a really beautiful way of letting someone know, hey, I believe in you so much that I know you have so much more to give, because I see your true potential and I see you trying hard. And yes, there needs to be acknowledgement in that moment, and recognizing that your team member loves that you see a greater version of themselves than they can currently see. And as leaders, we must believe in our teams. We can't be micromanaging them all the time. We have to know that with our support in the environment that we are creating, that people will thrive, that they will step into their true potential as a result of who you are being. That's the energy that we need to bring. And feedback is part of that. Feedback helps us to nourish that growth. Feedback helps us to create an environment where people are not walking on eggshells and pandering to be liked, but they're willing to feel that feeling of, oh, that really hurt, but I know that it's growth. And when we can do that, we will be able to experience a workplace that is limitless in its potential, because it will continue to grow and develop and innovate continuously. And that is what creates a phenomenal business. So I trust that you're seeing how important feedback is to the bigger picture. And not just about that moment when you think, oh, I really should say something, but then you don't. Because you're letting them off the hook. And slowly that person won't be helping you achieve the mission, because they'll be doing it their way, not your way. On a societal level, there is a lot of factors around the resistance to feedback. And mainly it's the fact that if you're a tall poppy in New Zealand or Australia, you get cut down. And so there's a lot of resistance to become all that you want to be. And when people are not striving to become all that they can be, they also don't value growth, because the more that you grow, the more you're going to stand out and the more you'll get cut down. So from a family point of view, when people are growing up, they might not necessarily be getting the encouragement that they need to be a tall poppy. Or maybe they've just never had someone believe in them so much to tell them that they're only at 10%. And we always try to pander to people. We're just really lovely people. And that's a societal belief. And when we're really lovely people and we can't say what needs to be said, then there's no more growth. And you can say it in a way that is caring, that they can feel the love and feel the deep care, and also invites them to step up to that next level. In America, they say things a lot more directly than we do in New Zealand. And I remember working for Active Adventures New Zealand, a hiking company, before I became a coach. And it was really interesting because initially I was like, oh my goodness, it's pretty hard to hear, hey, I need you to do this for me. Or I didn't like that, I'd like this. That kind of hard language. And I remember that we were having a conversation around it, and the HR manager said, yes, they are direct, but wouldn't you rather know so that you can do something about it, rather than say the New Zealand approach of saying everything's fine, and then they go away from the trip and they haven't told you what they truly feel, and therefore were unsatisfied? Wouldn't you rather them be direct so that you can help them in the moment? And that's such a game changer in my mindset. I would rather that you told me, gave me feedback, so that I can grow, so that we can have open communication, rather than pandering to try to please me and not sharing what you truly feel. And I trust that in our coaching and in our group coaching that I'm stretching you. And if I'm not, please say, stretch me some more. Because I think that's a very important attitude to have as a business owner. And you may want to adopt that, because that means that you're going to continuously evolve yourself. And that makes a phenomenal leader. One of the other parts to feedback is people have an association with feedback and criticism. They put it all in one basket. Have you noticed that? That people are not allowing themselves to take value from the feedback because it feels like criticism. And interestingly, it depends who you're getting feedback from. And what I always think to myself about is that maybe somebody who hasn't achieved your results, or somebody who thinks that they know what they're talking about, they might have criticized you, or they might have given their opinion, their 2 cents. But they really have no right to say anything because they haven't gotten the results that you want. And I've got plenty of examples of this. People that aren't even in the coaching industry telling me how to run my business. And I just politely say to them, thank you so much for your input. I really appreciate that. And I choose whether to take it on board or not. I don't get defensive about it, and I always reply to them with love. And I recognize that you should only be taking feedback from people that are getting the results that you want. Otherwise, they just like to hear the sound of their own voice. And that's a really important point to recognize when you are valuing feedback, or within your workspace. If you're having a conversation about feedback, talk to your team and say, who gave you the feedback? Did they have the results to be able to help you grow on the journey? Or was it just somebody saying what they felt in the moment and it's not going to actually serve you? That's the differentiation between criticism and somebody who's randomly saying what it is that they feel, and somebody that actually knows that can help you get there. You get the difference? What did I have here? Oh, yes. Really great point about when you can't say what needs to be said, when you can't articulate the feedback, that's okay at the beginning. You're learning. Because what I've noticed is that people put a lot of pressure on themselves to have to give feedback, have to do it right, have to do it in a way that doesn't hurt the other person. And then they don't say something because they overcomplicated it in their heads. And then they get frustrated at themselves for not saying anything. And then now, instead of just having a problem with feedback, now you've got a problem with feedback and you're angry at yourself for not being able to say it. Do you know what I mean? And I've had so many coaching sessions where people say to me, oh, I've just got so annoyed. I knew I needed to say something, but I didn't. So take a breath. Remember that it's actually okay that you don't know. Permission to suck at giving feedback until you get better. And if you want to be open and honest with your team, just let them know, hey, I'm still learning. Or this is really hard for me right now because I don't want to hurt your feelings. I just need to let you know a couple of things that maybe you're not seeing, and I'd love to have a conversation about it. Do you hear the love and the concern? It's not like you need to do this. But what tends to happen is when you're learning how to give feedback, it's almost like you get a bit defensive yourself. You're like, okay, I'm the business owner and I should give feedback. Okay, Jim, I saw you doing this the other day and you were doing it wrong. I'm exaggerating, obviously. But that's quite common, that when you're learning how to do something, you go into almost too much on the other side. Like, I know what I'm doing, I promise. But that's also going to trip you up, because if you do it that way and then you end up not getting the results of the team buying in, and then you get angry at yourself for that, then it's a negative down spiral and then you don't give feedback in the end. Super common. And I understand why it happens. You're trying to step up to the next level and you're like, okay, I must do this. And recognize that that's okay. You can fuck up. It's fine. And the next level is learning how to do it with grace. Learning how to do it in a way that people are taking it on board because their psychological defenses are not going up. You're doing it in a way that helps them see their greatness rather than focus on their flaws. That's what feedback should be. A growth journey, an emotional journey that you both go on, and that the team member feels supported and loved and taken care of. So, how are we going to start doing this? Ask yourself, do you value feedback? What is your attitude towards feedback? Because your attitude towards feedback matters so much. If you can't take on board feedback, how do you expect your team to take on board feedback? If you don't value it, you won't go out of your way to give it. So valuing feedback is the first step. And how do you value feedback? Well, you listening to this video means that you're learning, and that makes you value it more because it's starting to resonate in your subconscious. And the other part of this is that when someone gives you feedback and you feel, oh, it's so painful, ask yourself, what is the growth value in this? And maybe you don't take it on board. That's also a choice, right? And maybe, just perhaps, it's something that is triggering you because it's a sore spot. And you could take what value there is in that feedback. Maybe you don't take it all on board, but you ask yourself, what is the growth value? And that will allow you to see, okay, perhaps I could have done that in a different way. Or maybe I could try it one other way as that person suggested and see how it goes. We need to stop being so caught up in our own story. We're right, you're wrong. the defensiveness that everyone walks around with, everyone, I'm generalizing, that a lot of people walk around with. Don't tell me what to do, I know how to live my life. How about, who cares? It's all learning and growth, and life is about love. And it's really important that we help people to give us feedback by having that attitude. That if you're too astringent or too square or too straight and narrow about something, you don't flow with the ebbs of life. So feedback is allowing yourself to be more flexible. Be a little bit more limber in your approach. Be super curious about the way that others would do it. That's how you value feedback. That's how you start to really step up and become that version of yourself that steps into your full potential. And the next layer from this, after sitting with the emotion of, damn it, that hurt, but I love it. After sitting with that emotion, the next level is to seek out feedback. Every single time you do something new, please let me know what I could do better. Share with your team what you're learning and get them to give you feedback on how they felt about it. Share with your customers a new product and get them to give you feedback. Because when you start to seek out feedback, you're maximizing your growth. You're helping yourself expand into what you can truly become. And that really is the key to being an inspired leader with phenomenal business results. Seeking out your own success because you're just showing up saying, maybe I know 10% about my industry. And you have that attitude of, I can always learn more. Everything is feedback. Life gives you so many clues. And we're so nuclear in our thinking, it's hard sometimes to see where we're missing, where we're lacking our awareness. My partner and I talk to each other all the time about being each other's mirror. Babe, let me know. I'd love to know what you're seeing. And we have conversations around being a mirror. I would have loved for you to have reflected that back to me before we needed to get to the situation. And that's a really adult conversation to have. So who could be your mirror? Is it me? Ask me to be your mirror. Seek out the feedback from your environment and you will grow faster. And your mindset around feedback will transform the way that you give feedback and the way that your team approaches feedback and values growth. Pretty cool? You loving it? This is my favorite subject. Next point, a little mind blank there. Next point is to build the muscle. You've got to keep on practicing because feedback isn't just a skill that you learn and then you tick the box and then you're there. Acknowledge yourself for how far you've come. Allow yourself to muck up. Allow yourself to reflect on why that person maybe didn't take on board the feedback. And then also, there needs to be a letting go. A letting go after you've done all that you can do, because that person is ultimately outside of your control. That person's going to do what that person's going to do. And you need to let them do that. Because if your feedback wasn't effective enough, they're not going to take it on. But maybe your feedback was super effective, but they chose not to take it on anyway because that's their shit. And that's okay. And then it needs to be a whole other conversation about whether you want them to be working in your company, whether that's the kind of person that you want to have on your team. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about you. So allowing yourself to just keep on practicing, keep on reflecting, noticing how to do it in different ways, having models or people that you know who give feedback really well, and listening to the way that they articulate themselves. What is their tone? What is their body language? How do they convey the message with love? So when you end up starting to give feedback, it can seem like there's a lot going on. And that's okay, because you're building the muscle, you're open to learning and growing yourself, you're getting feedback from the people that you're giving feedback to, and that will build the momentum, and it will get easier. We have different energies within us, and I don't mean like fluffy woo-woo energy, I mean like as in energetically you can be a dominant person, you could be a soft, calm person, those kind of energies. And a dominant energy can repel some people if it's too dominant. But when you are giving feedback, you need to lean into that energy a little bit more. Sort of like, this is the hard line. Because then they know that they can't fuck with you. And you need to convey the message in a way that communicates your certainty. Because then they know, okay, well, I really better pull up my boots. It's not about, oh, okay, maybe you could potentially try to do it this way, but if not, then that's okay, don't worry about it. That isn't going to get the person to start behaving the way that you want them to behave, or start taking action the way that you want them to take action. Your dominant energy needs to be, hey, I see all of the amazing work that you've done, but we need to go to the next level here, and I'm not seeing the next level within you, and I know that you can do it. Notice that it's with love, and it's also like, I'm serious about this, and there's going to be consequences if it doesn't change. That's the energy you need to bring. But it's not the asshole energy of, yeah, well, you didn't blah, blah, blah. It's not a bitchy energy. It's just, hey, this is what I'm noticing. I'm reflecting it back to you, and this is what I see needs to change. That is going to get you the results. That's going to be the foundation to create an environment where people they're taking action because they know it matters. They're not just being fluffy and doing things the way that they want to do it, and then it's okay because nothing ever happens anyway, and nobody ever talks about what I do, so, that's not the energy you want in your workplace. You want people to be striving. You want people to be innovating. You want people to be going the extra mile and being okay to make a mistake. That's when that buzz gets created. So the third step is demonstrating care. So if the second step is that dominant energy, the third step is moving into that softer energy, because maybe there's a reason why they don't do it the way that you want them to. Or maybe there is a barrier. Maybe it's a system issue. Maybe they don't have the resources. There are so many factors. Maybe they just clearly didn't know, which is the most common one. There's so many factors into why they're behaving the way that they're behaving. And when we demonstrate care and we go into it with curiosity, like, hey, I'd really like to know, give me your understanding of how you think that you should be doing this. And you can demonstrate care with a warm chocolate tone. Some people, they have a tone like this and their voice is always inflected like this. That doesn't convey certainty or care. So you want to drop into what's called warm chocolate. And warm chocolate is a really nice, heartfelt way to communicate feedback, because you are doing it consciously from a place of care and love and certainty. And so I'm not here to teach you about how to give someone a feedback sandwich, but just genuinely care. And when you care, make sure that you acknowledge them for what they have done, so that they don't just focus on the negative. Because our brains have a automatic default function to focus on the negative. And that was really important back in the day when we needed to survive lions and tigers and bears. We needed to have a reference for all the negative things so that we could save ourselves. So keeping that in mind, you can create the thinking for them and say, hey, what I really loved about what you did was X, Y, and Z. Just showing up with care, acknowledging them, being really curious about whether it was a systems issue or whether a communication issue, and then helping them see that there's another way, and being really clear about the next steps forward. So, for example, hey, what I've noticed is that you've been doing it this way and this way and this way. Are you able to share with me what's your thinking around that? And then say to them, okay, so how could we change this in the future? And then as they start talking, it becomes a conversation. And then you can say, okay, I love what you've said around this point and this point specifically. Maybe for this point and this point, we need to think about this and this and this. And then you can say, and I need you by next Tuesday to come back to me and show me that this and this is done. Is that okay with you? See how that conversation, it's not a one-way thing. Nobody's feeling cornered. It's just a really nice flow. Hey, let's have a chat about how we could do this better. And that is feedback. And it's your attitude and your approach. And that's going to create so much more fulfillment for you, because I know that you want to create an impact. And I know that you want to be the best person that you can be for your team, the best leader that you can be. And as you step into that version of yourself that has that dominant energy, has that care, and that beautiful warm chocolate tone to be able to give feedback, that's the kind of leader that people are going to follow. And that's when your mission is totally achievable. So awesome to hang out with you. And I love, love, love your journey around feedback. And I'd love some feedback about this video. So comment below if you can. Bye for now.